Well, hello, folks. I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily NeoTA wrap, where we take a look at these markets and we do it from a neoclassical perspective, each time asking ourselves one question: what happened today? And what does it tell us about the coming ones? I do this show 4 times a week, every Monday through Thursday. It's broadcast at or before 10 o'clock Eastern Time. It's archived on YouTube. It is under the channel L.A. Little. If you haven't subscribed, go up to the top, right-hand side, subscribe. Anytime I push content, you'll get notified. It's an easy, simple, free way to stay up with what's going on in these markets. If you want to grow your financial capital, you got to save it, you got to protect it, and you got to find opportunity. And I do point some of those things out here on a daily basis. As far as what happened with this market, let's take a look at the numbers. If we go over and grab those, let's see here. Where do I have those little babies? Here we go. So gold up, the SSCC last night was up, and that was about it. Everything else down, right? Russell was the big loser tonight, down 1.5% almost. What we're going to find now is on the way up, we had the huge spurt in some of the junk. Some of the junk was small caps. A lot of that junk was in the XLB, the XLE, so forth. As you come back, what you want to see is how those behave as they come back to significant areas, and we'll point out one or the two of those tonight. The other thing that's happening right now is earnings, right? Earnings starting to come out. We got a slew of them today, this evening. I'll go over a few of those. So the tonight show is going to be a little bit longer than usual, so let's get into it. But down, we expected it to be down. It was down. In other words, it's doing what is expected. You had the same thing in Europe. Europe pulls back about 1%. So let's pop in and look at the S&P 500 to start. And if we look at the S&P and if we look at all these indexes, what we're going to see is the same thing, and that is every one of them went up today. Well, actually, it was interesting. They all gapped down. They went all the way back up, set new highs, and then they sold them off into the close and into the earnings. So the end result on the S&P is you test the swing point high. That top is 2020. You get to 2022, you go over it, you go back under it, you have less volume. It's a failure at the highs on volume. That's about as bad as it can get. That's the S&P 500. Now on the rest of these, it's a little different story. For example, if we look at the NASDAQ's not even close to that swing point high, so it just does an over-under but has more volume. So you get kind of a quote-unquote failure on the day before because it has more volume. It doesn't really mean anything. In other words, you can't count on that following through. If you look at the NDX, you have the same story. So you go over, you go back under, and if you look at the Russell, you also have the same story. Now, last night, if you remember, well, actually, the Russell's a little different. The Russell came down with some volume, and it came off the top. Now, if you remember last night, the scenario we were talking about and what we were saying is we'd probably get some sort of a pullback more than likely today was that we went over back under. We had a 2-bar reversal on the S&P the day before and again yesterday. That one looked weak, and then the others actually did over-unders. They weren't extended enough. NDX was the only one that didn't. The Russell comes off, does a little volume, so we're coming back. Now, the Russell, let's point out some of these areas of significance. So if I start drawing these out, the first area that looks significant to me is this swing point, not swing point, but this high. And as you can see, it came right into that high. And as it comes back into it, has less volume. So the very first test is going to be here, and it's going to be first thing in the morning. Now, we had earnings that's going to try to put pressure on this market, but that's the first area. The other area I'd look at, and they're not great areas, but is this little consolidation here where you had that little pause, and then you start getting back into some of these high volume areas in here. So I think the main area is right here at the beginning, and then you're back into the support zone that the charts are drawing out here at the green area. That to me looks like probably the best bet as to where you would want to look. This one's not as clearly defined, so I don't when I don't see real significance, and in this case the TA today charts are going to try to find it for you, but the value of it, and actually you can tell that value. I'm going to pull this over here. You can tell that value if you come into the tools and especially if you have unlimited access, right? You can pop in here to the trading tools, and you can type in the Russell. Typing that in, you can come down, you can look at other stuff, but the thing I wanted to look at was the rankings here. So the strongest rankings are the ones that are 1, the weakest is anything lower than that, and this is on a relative basis. If I put it on time frame, I can go find whatever that particular chart was showing us. So if I go back over here real quick to the chart, take a look at it. So this looks like, what is this bar? The bottom of this bar is September 25th. So if I come back in here real quick, I can find it on a short term right here. So that's got a 1. So that's actually got, the TA Today charts are saying it has a high ranking. I didn't think so, but then again, these programs are pretty good, so I'm not going to go against it. So anyway, that's the Russell. That's what that one looks like. Let's move on. If we go to overseas, let's look at the DAX here first. And so the DAX comes off a little bit, no volume. It's coming back into the big bars, and I don't see anything special here. The thing that you're going to see on some of these, and we'll see if it shows up on 1 or 2 of these here tonight. Well, I know it does on some of them. I kind of saw it earlier today. This is the swing point low, right? It tried to get over it, didn't quite get over it. So it was doing a test of the prior swing point lows high, which is a bearish retest, regenerate, didn't quite get over it. So it's coming back now, right? What does that mean? That means it's going to try to regenerate lower. So we can actually watch this thing and see if it can or can't regenerate to the downside. In other words, does it push back up underneath this bar? Does it get back under this low and start pushing down? So that's one thing, that can be watched, and we'll give you some information. If we look at the, let's see here, if we look at the, not the DAX, but the CAX, let's see what that one looks like. And on this one, what do we have here? Having trouble with my symbols tonight. Here we go. Okay, so on this one, we were coming back to test a swing point high, got up there, tested, and came off that. No volume on the way back. Now, in the case of the CAX, we actually got over that swing point lows high, right? So that transitioned kind of the early warning system to say no longer this but that. So, the real key will be is, does it hold this area? So you have a support zone right up underneath it, another one underneath that. Again, I don't see anything special here telling us that we're going down or telling us that we're going to go up. It's just kind of, blasé right now, a little pullback taking place, nothing big. Hong Kong was testing a high, got over them with volume and just kind of hanging. I don't see anything bad about that. Let's look at the Nikkei right quick. And the Nikkei was coming up and really nothing there. So they're all just kind of, did a push up consolidation. You can view this as bad or you can view it as good. In other words, you've had a big sell-off in most of these overseas markets, right? Then a more graduated sell-off, and now a pretty good bounce. Now, is it going to turn off and come down again, or is it just going to consolidate and then go up some more? And when you don't know that answer, and there's nothing here really to tell us that right now that I see. If I look at longer term stuff, for example, if I bring the Nikkei over, this looks like it tested the bottoms, got a hammer reversal. That looks pretty good. So, overall, it still looks okay. I don't see anything bad. So we have indexes, U.S. indexes saying we're going to try to go lower again. We got overseas markets not really giving us any big signals one way or the other. And if I look at the sectors, here's where I was looking at earlier that I was saying we have some things that we can watch. Let me just pop through these, and actually let me just bring up the show all charts button here so I can flip through them all. All right, let's grab this and just flip through them. So IBB will be the first one. And so the IBB came off today, no real volume, but just came off. If I look at, so it's trying to go back down, test the lows again. If I look at the home construction, that one comes off. Same thing, goes over, back under, and is rolling over. and that was after getting over a swing point low. So in all those cases, as they come back into swing point lows, that will be the test. If I look at some of these stronger ones, for example, here I'm looking at the IYR, which had, did a very nice push up, gets over a swing point high, so transitions trend right here. Now it's going to come back in. That's a bullish retest regenerate on the way back up. So you get a pullback. You want to see how it behaves. And this actually has a very wide price spread bar. So you want to see how it behaves as it comes back into it. If it comes back within 6 bars, it can get to the bottom. And it probably gets inside of it somewhere. And so that one will be a test on the way back. And we can look at each of those as they come back and see what they're doing. IYT got smoked today. Ryder lowered projections, and CSX was after the bell. Let me look at the CSX numbers. So they reported Q3 EPS of 52. It was 2 cents better than the estimate of 50. Let me see. It says the revenue declined about 9%. It's still targeting full year expectations on earnings, so they're still squeezing the money out of it somehow. And significant coal headwinds. So they still don't see anything happening in the coal revenue. It's declining another $450 million. It traded pretty much flat, didn't really do anything after the bell. So looking back at the chart here and asking ourselves, what is this one telling us? At this point, this one isn't telling much either, right? You're coming back into a big bar here with a lot of volume. You had a big bar there. You tried to get over and stay over, and you couldn't. So it's just coming back to test. We'll see how it tests as it comes back. Real story is going to be in the banks. So if I look at JP Morgan, so JP Morgan comes back tonight. This one is down. It does EPS of 132, 9 cents worse than expected. Estimate is a 141. Down 2% tonight. 60.50 is where this one's trading to, so it's trading somewhere down in this area. The key test here is going to be swing point lows. It's going to be this little support zone here and the swing point low underneath it. You get under those, right? This thing hasn't done anything different, and these are going to be big, right? All these banks are going to be big. You're going to get all the big banks here in the next 3 days. And Wells Fargo tomorrow, Citigroup, Bank of America, all of them are going to report, and where they go is going to have a big impact probably on this market because it's one of the largest sectors in the S&P 500. Intel reported after hours. Let's see what their numbers look like and what their charts look like. So Intel reports EPS of 64 is 5 cents better. Revenue came in at 14.5 versus 14.22, so they actually came in pretty good. They had a 6.3% fall in their profit. Net income of 311, 64 cents a share. Okay, so this one actually sold off. It was up on the initial numbers, but then it sold off, and it sold off pretty bad. Down, looks like about 3.5%, down $1.31. So it's trade back to here. On this daily chart, Intel is going to simply come back and try to do a retest regen bullish off this prior swing point high. Let's see what the weekly chart looks like. Weekly is a little different, right? The weekly was doing. Now here's where this is why you look at these multiple time frames. On the weekly chart, it was doing a full bearish retest regen on light volume into the top. That's going to come right back down. So this is not going to hold up on a longer term basis. Another one tonight, Fastenal. So they report, looks like 47, which is in line. A little less rev than expected. They do a quarterly dividend, but they trade off 2% after hours, 37. This is going to go lower. This is nothing more than a little bounce into, look at that, right into the bearish retest regen after more than 6 bars. It's going to come right back at you. Another one was Hawk, which is a financial concern. This one was down about 6.5%, 43 after hours. This actually was, one of the members was asking about it today. It was set up pretty good, but it's not going to be able to hold price, it looks like. So we'll have to see how it trades tomorrow. But 6.5% is kind of thinly traded. got a high short interest in it. We were talking about 42.65 is going to be a tough spot to get under. If it gets under that, that's bad. 42.98 is where it was trading after hours, so it's going to test that low, and that's where you got to hold. So what's the gist here? Why go over these? Well, because almost all of them trade lower. It doesn't matter if they say things are good or bad or whatever, they trade lower. And it's not unexpected, because we came into earnings season expecting these to probably roll over because we had ran up so much into earnings. It's sell the news, folks. That's what's happening here. A couple quick questions from members. Let's look at that. One regarding a short on ALL, which is Allstate. So Allstate's coming back in. Yeah, this looks like a short to me. I don't know when earnings is. It's probably coming up here in the next few weeks. But that looks like a bearish retest regen with no volume on a big bar. That's probably going to roll right back over and go back into this consolidation. So I think you can make it to the bottom of this area, but I would look and make sure when earnings are getting reported, so you don't get blindsided there. And then the other one, what was the other one here? JOF, which is a Japanese small cap fund. This one, it's very thin, so that's one thing I'd be careful of. It's coming back into the top here, which is the bearish retest regen, so it's in the right spot. It's just the volume's so thin, it's kind of hard to trade something like this. I'd probably pass on this one, because overall it's been fairly strong. If the yen starts down again, and that's what you really have to watch with this. If the yen starts down again, then you might get what you're looking for, but that really depends on what happens with the yen more than likely, because that's kind of what drives the Japanese markets anymore. It's whether they can devalue fast enough to appreciate their shares. I'm going over to grab the yen right now and see what it looks like, because it's been fairly strong, which has been working against this market. Still consolidating. I don't see anything there, so that one's a toss-up, and I probably wouldn't play it. Allstate, yeah, if you can get in on the earnings before earnings, start biting at you. Okay, that's it for tonight. What do I expect? I expect this market to continue to try to sell down. I don't see anything, strong saying it's going to be bad, but I expect we're going to continue to see some weakness off these earnings, especially after what we saw tonight. All right, that's it for tonight. Have a great one. Thanks for joining me. Take care. I'll see you next time.